I came home and my key didn't work anymore because my own sister had already taken my house. Hit like and subscribe and listen carefully because what she did next made it even worse. My sister showed up at my door on a Tuesday night, and I swear she was still smiling when she ruined my life. It was raining like crazy. The kind of rain where you don't knock, you just pound the wood until someone opens up. I opened the door and there she was, Lena, dripping wet, holding one garbage bag, just one. That should have been my first clue. She said, "Hey, big sis." I said, "What happened?" She shrugged like it was nothing. Like she forgot to pay a library fine. She said, "Landlord raised the rent. Roommate bylaid. I got until Friday, but Friday is tomorrow, so I guess I'm here now." No, please. No, can I stay? Just I'm here now. And me? Stupid loyal me. I stepped aside. I said, "Get inside, you're soaked." She dropped the bag right there in my hallway, water dripping on my hardwood floor. She looked around like she was inspecting the place, like she hadn't seen it 100 times before. She said, "I just need 2 weeks. Tops, I'll crash on your couch. You won't even know I'm here." I laughed at that. I actually laughed because I believed her. I said, "You're my sister. Of course I got you." She hugged me. Cold and wet and smelling like rain and cheap perfume. She whispered in my ear, "You're the only one who never lets me down." That night I made her tea, gave her towels, showed her where the extra blankets were. She took the guest room even though I offered the couch. She said, "I need a door, you know how I am." I didn't know how she was, not really, not yet. I went to bed feeling like a hero, like I did something good, something noble. I texted my best friend Chloe and said, "My sister's crashing for a bit, no big deal." She texted back, "How long?" I said, "Couple weeks." She said, "You sure about that?" I called her a hater and threw my phone on the charger. I fell asleep smiling. That was the last night I smiled in my own house for a long time. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about opening your door to family. Once they're in, getting them out is a whole different game. And I didn't even know I was playing. I came home from work on day 4 and something felt off. Not loud off, quiet off. The kind of off that creeps up your neck before your brain catches it. My key turned fine, door opened fine. But the second I stepped inside, I knew. My heels. The black ones I leave by the door for work every morning. They were moved. Pushed to the side like someone rearranged my entrance without asking. I said, "Lena?" She called back from the kitchen. "Yeah," I said. "Did you move my shoes?" She came out holding my favorite mug. My mug. The one I got from a road trip to Nashville in 2019. She was drinking my coffee out of my mug and she said, "Oh yeah." I swept the floor and just pushed everything over. No big deal, right? No big deal. That's what she said. I stared at my heels. They weren't just pushed. They were tucked under the bench like they didn't belong there. Like her ratty old sneakers were the ones that should be out. And guess what? Her sneakers were right in the middle of the mat. I said, "Can you move yours back?" She looked at me like I asked her to climb a mountain. "Seriously, you're gonna make a thing about shoes?" I didn't make a thing, I let it go. That's what nice women do, right? They let it go. Day 5. I got home late, like 9 p.m. late. I was hungry, tired. Wanted my leftover tie from the night before. I opened the fridge, no tie. I checked the container in the trash, empty. 3 spring rolls and half my noodles. Gone. I walked to the guest room. Door was closed. I knocked. Lena opened it, chewing something. I said, "Did you eat my Thai food?" She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and said, "You weren't home. It was gonna go bad." I said, "It was in the fridge. It wasn't gonna go bad in 4 hours." She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes at me. "In my house that I pay for," she said, "I'll buy you more, damn. You don't have to be so intense." I stood there in the hallway of my own home feeling like a guest, like I was the one being unreasonable. That's when I felt it, that tiny crack in my chest, that little voice whispering, "She's not leaving in 2 weeks." But I didn't listen, because she's my sister, and I'm the good sister. Good sisters don't kick their siblings out over noodles and heels. Right? Day 6 got worse. I came home and she was in my bathroom, not using it, rearranging it. My expensive shampoo was on the floor. Her drugstore conditioner was in the shower caddy. My razor was moved to the bottom shelf. My towels were folded wrong on the wrong rack. I said, "Lena, what are you doing?" She didn't even turn around. She said, "Your setup was chaotic. I fixed it." Fixed it. She said she fixed my bathroom like it was broken, like I was a child who didn't know how to organize. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I took a deep breath. I told myself she's just settling in. She'll leave soon. 2 weeks, remember? That night I called my best friend Chloe. Crying, real tears, I said, "She's taking over my house and I don't know how to stop it." Chloe said, "You stop it by telling her to leave tomorrow, not next week." "Tomorrow," I said, "but she's family." Chloe was quiet for a long time, then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Family doesn't make you cry in your own bathroom." I hung up and stared at the ceiling for an hour. I knew she was right, but I still didn't do anything, because saying no to Lena has never been my strong suit. Not when we were kids, not when she borrowed my car and brought it back on empty, not when she forgot to pay me back that $500, and not now, not in my own house. I fell asleep hating myself a little. And that hate grew every single day after. Here's the hook for next chapter. The next morning, I woke up to a sound I'd never heard before. A key turning from the outside. Someone was coming into my house, and I didn't give anyone a key. I woke up to the sound of metal scraping metal. Not my key, not my hand. Someone else was unlocking my front door from the outside. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed my phone, didn't even put on glasses. I crept to the bedroom door and cracked it open. The front door swung wide and Lena walked in like she owned the place. She was holding coffee, 2 cups. She saw me standing there in my pajamas with my phone in my hand like I was about to call 911. She laughed. She actually laughed. She said, "Relax, drama queen, I got us breakfast." I said. How did you get a key? She walked past me into the kitchen, set the cups down. She said, I made a copy last week. You were in the shower. I figured, why wake you up for something stupid? Made a copy of my house key without asking. While I was in the shower, I felt sick. I said, you can't just make copies of someone's house key. That's not okay. She took a sip of her coffee, didn't even look at me. She said, you're being dramatic again. It's just a key. It's not like I'm robbing you. But she was robbing me, just slowly, just in pieces so small I barely noticed. Until now, I said, give me the key. She looked at me like I asked for her firstborn child. What? I said, give me the copy. Right now. She pulled a key off her keychain, tossed it on the counter like it was nothing. Like I was being ridiculous, I grabbed it, held it so tight the metal bit into my palm. She said, happy now? I wasn't happy. I wasn't even close to happy, because if she made one copy without me knowing, she could make 10. Could have given it to anyone, her sketchy friends, her even sketchier ex-boyfriend. I didn't know anymore. I didn't know what she was capable of. That night, I hid my spare key in a new place. Not under the mat, not in the flower pot. Somewhere she'd never think to look. Taped inside the vent in my bedroom. I felt crazy doing it. Like I was hiding from a burglar. But the burglar was my sister. And she was already inside. Day 8. I came home and my bedroom door was open. I always close it. Always. I walked in. Nothing obvious was missing. But my jewelry box was moved. Just an inch, but I knew someone had opened it. I asked Lena. She was on the couch watching my TV. She said, I was looking for a nail file. Yours was in there. I said, don't go in my room. She said, it's not that serious. I said, don't go in my room. This time my voice was different, harder. She looked at me for a second. Then she smiled, that fake sweet smile. She said, okay, okay. Sorry, Mom. She called me Mom. Like I was nagging, like I was the problem. I went to my room and locked the door, sat on my bed, stared at the wall. I texted Chloe. She made a copy of my key. She went through my jewelry box. Chloe texted back, get her out now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, I typed back. How? Chloe said. Change the locks today while she's out. I looked at the time. Lena was going to meet a friend in an hour. I had a window, a small one. I grabbed my purse and my keys and I drove to the hardware store. Bought a new lock, the most expensive one they had, the kind with a code so you can't copy it. I got home. She was gone. I changed the lock in 40 minutes. Sweating, shaking. Every noise made me jump, but I did it. When Lena came back, her key didn't work. She knocked. I opened the door. She looked at me, then at the new lock, then back at me. She said nothing. Her face went blank, not angry. Not sad, blank. That scared me more than anything. She walked inside, went to her room, closed the door. Didn't say a word to me for 2 days. 2 days of silence in my own house. And I thought I won. I thought I fixed it. Here's the hook for next chapter. I was so stupid. Because on day 11, she stopped being quiet, and what she did next made the key thing look like nothing. Day 11, I came home and the kitchen table was covered in papers. Bills, my bills, electric, water, internet, cable, all of them, and next to them, new envelopes, addressed to her. At my address, I picked one up. It was a credit card statement. Her name, my house, another one, a cell phone bill. Her name, my house, another one, a bank statement. Her name, my house, I said, Lena. She came out of the guest room slow. Like she had all the time in the world. She was wearing my robe, the fluffy one I got for Christmas 2 years ago. My robe, I said, why are you getting mail at my house? She leaned against the wall, crossed her arms. She said, because I live here now. I said, no, you don't. You're crashing. There's a difference. She laughed, not a nice laugh, a laugh that said, you're cute for believing that. She said, I've been here almost 2 weeks. My stuff is everywhere. I sleep here every night. I eat here every day. What do you call that? I said. I call it you leaving in a few days. She walked to the table, picked up one of the bills, held it up like she was teaching a class. She said, you know what I call it? Establishing residency. My blood went cold. I knew that term. I'd seen videos about it. Squatters, people who stay just long enough to claim rights. But that couldn't happen here, not with family. Right. I said, you can't just decide you live somewhere. This is my house. My name is on the deed. She shrugged. She said, doesn't matter, I get mail here. I've been here more than 2 weeks. In some states, that's enough. I'd have to be evicted, and eviction takes months. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone, started typing. She watched me. Calm, too calm. She said, you can look it up if you want, but you won't like what you find. I found it. 30 seconds on Google. In my state, if someone gets mail at your address and stays more than 14 days, they have tenant rights. Even without a lease, even without paying rent. I looked up from my phone. She was smiling. That fake, sweet smile again. She said, see, I told you, you should listen to me more. I said, you planned this. She tilted her head. Planned what? I said. The mail, the boxes, the key. You never meant to leave. She didn't answer. She just walked back to the guest room and closed the door. I stood in my kitchen surrounded by her envelopes and her name on my address. I felt like I was drowning. I called Chloe, told her everything. Chloe said, lawyer. Tomorrow morning, don't wait. I said, what if she's right? What if I can't just kick her out? Chloe said, then you burn the house down. She was joking, I think. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch and stared at her closed door. The woman on the other side wasn't my sister anymore. She was a stranger who knew all my weaknesses because I'd shown her, because I trusted her. I pulled up the deed to my house on my phone just to look at my name. Just to remind myself it was real, it was mine, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a battlefield, and I was losing. Here's the hook for next chapter. The next morning, I found a lawyer, and what she told me made me throw up in my car. Day 12, I found a lawyer online. Her name was Ms. Harris. She had sharp eyes and a sharper voice. I sat in her office with my coffee shaking in my hand. I told her everything. The 2 weeks. The mail, the key, the mail again. The look on Lena's face when she said establishing residency. Ms. Harris didn't blink. She just typed and typed and typed. Then she stopped, looked at me. She said, "You have a problem." I said, "I know." She said, "No, you don't. You think you have a squatter problem. You actually have something worse." My stomach dropped. She said, "Your sister isn't just staying. She's systematically replacing you. The mail, the bills, changing the locks. That's not lazy. That's deliberate. She's building a paper trail to claim tenancy. And from what you're telling me, she's almost there." I said, "Can I kick her out?" Ms. Harris leaned back. She said, "You can try. But if she fights it, you're looking at 30 to 60 days for an eviction. Maybe more if she knows how to drag it out. And from what you described, she knows." I started crying, right there in the lawyer's office. Ugly crying. The kind where you can't breathe. Ms. Harris handed me a tissue. Didn't say it's okay because it wasn't okay. She said, "Here's what I would do. Document everything, every piece of mail, every text, every time she moves your stuff. Take pictures, video, audio if your state allows it. And then you give her a formal written notice to vacate. Not a text, not a conversation, a paper she has to sign." I said, "And if she doesn't leave," Ms. Harris said, "then we file for eviction." "And you hope she doesn't destroy your house before the sheriff shows up." Destroy my house? My sister? Destroy my house? I drove home in a daze, parked in my driveway, sat in my car for 20 minutes just staring at my front door. The door I opened for her, the door I thought would close behind her in 2 weeks. I walked inside. Lena was in the living room, watching TV, eating my snacks. She looked at me and said, "Where have you been?" like she was my mom. Like I owed her an answer, I said, "None of your business." She raised her eyebrows. "Ooh, someone's feisty today." I walked past her to my room, grabbed a piece of paper, wrote, "Notice to vacate. You have 30 days to leave this property." I walked back to the living room, put it on the coffee table in front of her. She looked at it, picked it up, read it. Then she started laughing. Loud, mean. She said, "You printed this on notebook paper? You think this is legal?" I said, "It's a start." She tore it in half, right in front of me, slowly, like she wanted me to watch. She said, "Try again. But this time, make it official and bring a lawyer because I'm not going anywhere." I stood there looking at the torn paper on my floor. She turned back to the TV, put her feet on my coffee table. No coaster. She said, "Close the door on your way out. You're letting the cold in." It was my house. She told me to close the door in my house. I went to my room, locked the door, sat on the floor, and for the first time in my life, I seriously considered calling the police on my own blood. Here's the hook for next chapter. But before I could call anyone, I heard something in the living room. A man's voice. She had someone over, and I didn't know who it was or why he was in my house. Day 13. I walked out of my bedroom to get a glass of water, and there was a man on my couch. A man I'd never seen before. Late 30s, tattoos on his neck, dirty boots on my floor. He was drinking my beer. My beer. I said, "Who the hell are you?" He looked at me like I was the one who didn't belong. Lena came out of the kitchen. She said, "Oh, that's Derek, my boyfriend. He's gonna stay for a few days." I said, No, he's not." Derek laughed. He actually laughed. He said, "She's got jokes." Lena put her hand on my shoulder, like she was calming me down, like I was the crazy one. She said, "Relax, he's just crashing. You said family helps family. He's practically family now." I said, "He's not family, I don't even know him, and this is my house." Derek stood up. He was taller than me, a lot taller. He looked down at me and said, "Your house? Pretty sure Lena said you share it now." I looked at Lena. She didn't correct him. She just stood there with that blank face. I said, "Get out, both of you, now." Derek stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell his breath, beer and cigarettes. He said, "Make me." I froze. I'm not a fighter. I've never been a fighter. I'm just a woman who wanted to help her sister. And now there was a stranger in my living room drinking my beer and telling me to make him leave. I backed up. I hated myself for backing up, but I did. I went to my room, locked the door, called the police. They came in 20 minutes. Derek was gone by then. Lena said he ran out the back when she told him she called the cops. I didn't call the cops. She did. She told them I was having a breakdown, that I was imagining things, that there was no man. I was just stressed from work. The officer looked at me, looked at her. He said, "Ma'am, is everything okay?" I looked at Lena. She was standing behind the officer, smiling. She shook her head slightly, like, "Don't you dare." I said, "Everything's fine, I'm just tired." The officer left. Lena closed the door behind him. She walked up to me, slow. She said, "You tried to call the cops on my boyfriend." "In my home?" I said, "Your home?" She said, "Yes, my home. You need to get that through your head." I said, get out now." She laughed. She said, "Or what? You gonna cry again? You gonna call Chloe? You gonna hide in your room like a little mouse?" She walked past me, pushed my shoulder, just a little, just enough to move me. She said, "Go to bed, sis. You're embarrassing yourself." I went to my room. Locked the door, and I didn't come out for 2 days. I peed in a cup, 8 protein bars I kept in my nightstand. I was a prisoner in my own house because I was scared. Scared of her, scared of Derek, scared of what they might do if I pushed back. On day 15, I heard Derek's voice again. He was back. And this time, he wasn't leaving. Here's the hook for next chapter. That night, I found something in my closet that made me realize I wasn't just losing my house. I was losing my mind. Day 16, I finally left my room. Derek was gone, but I didn't trust it. I searched the house while Lena was in the shower, looked everywhere, in the closets, under the beds, in the basement. He wasn't there, but I found something else. In my bedroom closet, hidden behind my winter coats, a small bag, not mine, I opened it. Inside, a lighter, a pocket knife, a roll of duct tape, and a pair of latex gloves. My hands started shaking. I didn't touch anything else. I closed the bag, put it back exactly where I found it, took a picture, sent it to Chloe. Chloe called me screaming, "Get out of the house. Now go to a hotel. I'm coming to get you." I said, "I can't leave. If I leave, she wins. She'll say I abandoned it." Chloe said, "I don't care about winning. I care about you not ending up in a body bag." That hit me. Body bag from my sister. I called Ms. Harris, my lawyer. She said, "Take pictures of everything, every room, every corner. Every time you see Derek, and get cameras, hidden ones, today." I drove to Best Buy again, bought 4 small cameras, the kind that look like phone chargers and USB hubs. I came home. Lena was on the couch. She said, "Where'd you go?" I said, "Grocery shopping." Held up a bag of apples. She didn't ask about the other bag, the one with the cameras. I set them up while she was in the bathroom. One in the living room pointing at the couch. One in the kitchen pointing at the table. One in the hallway pointing at my bedroom door. One in the guest room. I had to be fast. My hands were sweating. I hid them behind books, behind the TV, behind a plant. When Lena came back, nothing looked different. She sat down, turned on the TV. I went to my room, locked the door, opened the camera app on my phone, and I watched her, in real time, eating my chips, drinking my soda. Texting someone on her phone, I zoomed in on her screen as much as I could. Couldn't read it, but I saw the name at the top. Derek. She was texting Derek, telling him it was safe to come back. I watched her type, "She's in her room like a good girl, come over." My sister, my blood, calling me a good girl like I was a dog. Derek showed up 20 minutes later. He didn't knock. He had a key, another copy. She made another copy. He walked in like he lived there. Sat down, put his arm around her. She kissed him, on my couch, in my house. I watched it all on my phone. I felt sick, but I didn't stop watching because I needed proof. I needed evidence. Ms. Harris said documentation was everything. So I documented every text, every cigarette butt on my floor, every time Derek put his dirty boots on my coffee table. I recorded everything for 3 days. Day 19, I finally had enough. I had video of Derek in my house, video of Lena saying, "She's not gonna do anything. She's weak." Video of them going through my kitchen drawers like they were looking for something. I sent everything to Ms. Harris. She called me back in 10 minutes. She said, "I'm filing the eviction tomorrow. Stay safe. Don't confront them alone." I said, "Okay." But that night I made a mistake. I got angry, really angry. And I did exactly what Ms. Harris told me not to do. Here's the hook for next chapter. I walked out of my room. Derek was on my couch. I looked him in the eye, and I said the 3 words that almost got me killed. I said, "Get out now." Derek didn't move. He just looked at me like I was a bug he hadn't decided to squash yet. Lena was next to him. She said, "Go back to your room, sis. You're embarrassing yourself again." I didn't move. I stood there. My legs were shaking, but I didn't move. I said, "This is my house. My name is on the deed. I have a lawyer. I have cameras. I have everything you two have been doing for the last week. The eviction papers are being filed tomorrow." Derek stood up, slow, deliberate. He was wearing that same dirty jacket, same boots. He walked toward me. I didn't back up this time. I couldn't. My back was against the wall. He stopped inches from my face. He said, "You think papers scare me? You think lawyers scare me? I've been to prison twice. 3 hots and a cot ain't nothing." I smelled his breath, felt his spit on my face when he talked. Lena stood up. She said, "Derek, don't." He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on me. He said, "You're gonna drop this. You're gonna let us stay. And you're gonna stop being a problem. You understand?" I said, "No," one word. My voice didn't shake. I don't know where that came from, but I said no. Derek's face changed. The calm went away. Something darker came out. He raised his hand, not a fist, just his hand. Like he was going to slap me. Lena grabbed his arm. She said, "Stop, not here, not now." He looked at her, then back at me. He lowered his hand. He said, "You got lucky." Then he walked to the guest room, slammed the door. Lena stood there looking at me. Her face was different, not mean, scared. She said, "You shouldn't have done that." I said, "Done what? Stand up for myself in my own house." She said, "You don't know what he's capable of." I said, "I don't care." But I did care. I was terrified. I went to my room. Locked the door, checked the window. Ground floor. Could he get in? Probably. I pushed my dresser against the door, sat in the corner, watched the camera feed on my phone. Derek came out of the guest room an hour later. He was carrying a backpack. Lena followed him to the front door. They talked quietly. I couldn't hear. He left. She went to her room. The house was quiet, too quiet. I didn't sleep that night. I just watched the cameras, waiting for something to happen. At 3 a.m., I saw movement on the kitchen camera. Someone was at the back door, trying the handle. It was locked. They tried the window. Locked. Then a face pressed against the glass. Derek, he was back. He was trying to break in. I called 911, whispered to the operator. "Someone's trying to break into my house." She said, "Is anyone inside?" I said, "My sister and her boyfriend. But the boyfriend is the one trying to get in." She said, "Ma'am, I'm sending someone now. Stay on the line." I watched Derek on the camera. He gave up after 5 minutes, walked away. Cops came 10 minutes later. He was gone. Lena opened the door, told the cops everything was fine. It was just a misunderstanding. She was so calm, so believable, they left. I sat in my room, shaking, and I realized something. The cops weren't going to save me. The lawyers weren't going to save me. I had to save myself. Here's the hook for next chapter. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my mother. My mother lives 3 states away. We don't talk much. She always took Lena's side. Always. Lena was the baby. Lena could do no wrong. When we were kids, Lena broke my arm, not on purpose, but still. Mom said she didn't mean it. She's just little. Little. Lena was 12, I was 14, but I called her anyway because I didn't know where else to turn. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello," I said. "Mom, I need help." I told her everything, the 2 weeks, the locks, the mail, Derek, the bag in my closet, the eviction, Derek trying to break in. I talked for 20 minutes without stopping. When I finished, there was silence. Then my mother said, "What did you do to her?" My heart broke. Right there. I said, "What did I do?" She said, "Lena wouldn't act like that for no reason. You must have done something. You were always so cold to her." Cold, I was cold. I let her live in my house for free. I fed her. I gave her my hoodie, my robe, my food, my money, and I was cold. I said, "Mom, she changed the locks on my house. She brought a felon into my home. She told me she was establishing residency." My mother said, "You're exaggerating. You always exaggerate." I started crying. Not sad crying, defeated crying. The kind where you realize the person who's supposed to protect you never will. I said, "I'm not exaggerating. I have videos, I have pictures, I have a lawyer." My mother said, "You got a lawyer against your own sister. What is wrong with you?" I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore. I sat on my floor and I sobbed because I realized something terrible. My whole life, I thought Lena was the problem, but she was just the symptom. The real problem was a mother who never said no to her, who always blamed me, who taught Lena that she could do anything and someone else would clean up the mess. That someone was always me, until now. I wiped my face, stood up, looked in the mirror. I said out loud, "You're on your own and you always have been." That day I drove to the courthouse, filed the eviction myself, paid the fees, got the papers, I came home. Lena was on the couch. I handed her the papers, official ones, with a stamp. She read them, her face went pale. She said, "You actually did it." I said, 30 days, then the sheriff comes." She said, "Mom's gonna hear about this." I said, "I already told her." She blamed me like always. Lena stood up. She looked different, smaller. She said, "You're really gonna throw me out?" I said, "I'm not throwing you out. I'm taking my house back." That night, she packed 1 box, not 8, 1. She wasn't planning on leaving. She was planning on fighting. Here's the hook for the final chapter. 30 days came and went. She didn't leave, so I had to do something I never imagined. I had to watch the sheriff remove my own sister from my home. Day 47. Lena ignored the eviction notice, ignored the reminders, ignored the texts from my lawyer. She stayed on my couch, ate my food, used my water, let Derek come and go through the back door like nothing changed. But something had changed. Me. I stopped being scared. I stopped feeling guilty. I stopped asking myself, "What if she's right?" and started asking, "Why did I let this go on so long?" On day 47, the sheriff showed up. 2 deputies. A woman and a man. They knocked. I opened the door. Lena was in the living room, still in my robe, still on my couch. The female deputy said, "Ma'am, we're here to enforce the eviction order. You have 20 minutes to gather your belongings." Lena looked at me. Her eyes were cold. She said, "You're really doing this?" I said, "I already did it. You had 30 days. She stood up. Slow, she said, "Mom's never going to forgive you." I said, "I don't need her forgiveness. I need my house back." The deputies watched us. The male deputy said, "Ma'am, we need you to start packing." Lena went to the guest room, slamming doors, throwing things, cursing under her breath. I stood in the kitchen, watched the clock. 15 minutes later, she came out with 2 trash bags and 3 boxes. Not 8, not anymore. Derek had taken most of her stuff weeks ago. She'd been preparing for this. Just not the way I thought. She walked to the front door, stopped, turned to me. She said, "You know what your problem is?" I said, "I'm sure you're going to tell me." She said, "You think being right is the same as being happy. But look at you, alone, in this empty house. No husband, no kids, just you and your stupid deed." It was supposed to hurt, and it did, a little, but not as much as she wanted, I said. "I'd rather be alone in my house than trapped with someone who hates me." She stared at me for a long second, then she walked out. The deputies followed. One of them handed me a paper, proof of eviction, case closed. I closed the door, locked it, leaned against it, and I cried, not sad tears, not happy tears, just tears because I lost something that day. I lost the idea that family meant safety, that blood meant loyalty, that my sister loved me. Maybe she never did. Maybe she just saw a soft place to land, and I was soft for 47 days, but not anymore. I walked through my house. The guest room was destroyed, holes in the wall, drawers pulled out, a smell I couldn't place. I opened the window, let the air in. I took my robe back from the floor, washed it 3 times. I threw away the couch cushions where Derek sat, bought new ones. I repainted the guest room. White, clean, like none of it ever happened. But it did happen. And I can't forget. Sometimes I get texts from unknown numbers. "You're dead to us. Mom's crying because of you. Enjoy your empty life." I don't respond. I block them. I change my number. I installed a security system. Cameras on every corner of the house. Motion lights. A fence. My house looks like a prison now, but it's my prison, and I'm the only one with the key. Lena tried to come back twice, once at 2 a.m. The cameras caught her. She stood at the front door for 10 minutes, just staring, then she left. The second time Derek was with her, they tried the back door. The motion lights turned on. They ran. I sent the video to the police. They didn't do anything, but I kept it just in case. It's been 6 months now. I don't talk to my mother. I don't talk to Lena. I don't talk to anyone who took her side. My family is Chloe now. My friends, the people who believed me. The people who didn't make me feel crazy for wanting to keep my own home. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad. I'm just careful. I don't open my door for anyone without a plan. I don't say yes just because someone shares my blood. I don't let people in unless I know they'll leave. And that's the lesson. The one I learned too late. Family doesn't mean forever. Family doesn't mean you owe them your peace. Family doesn't mean you set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. The worst part of this whole thing, I still love her. Some stupid part of me still loves my sister, but I love my peace more. And that's not selfish. That's survival. So if you're watching this and someone is taking over your life one small piece at a time, stop it now. Today, not tomorrow, not next week. Because once they have your key, your mail, your address, your peace, getting it back is a war. And wars leave scars. I have mine. You don't need to get yours. Close the door, lock it, and don't feel bad. because the person who really loves you would never make you choose between them and your own front door.